like you need a little bit longer. So you needed a longer break from midnight golf? Oh, from school. I meant midnight golf. Just check. All right, so, halftime. Everybody here know what halftime is? What's halftime in the game? Halftime is the middle of the game? Okay. All right. So halftime happened over the break. We're already done with halftime. And now the real part of the game, because this is typically when the game is won or lost. What you do in the first half of the game, it matters because you're competing. But when you get ready to get to the second half of the game, that's when the good stuff happens. And why is it better in the second half than the first half? Study your opponent, you get a chance to warm up. Yes, ma'am.
Learn from your mistakes in the first half.
Learn from your mistakes in the first half. How many of you have had that? First half, it's like, oh my God, I don't even know who I am. You get in the locker room and coach is like, I don't know who you are either. Right? That's just for my athletes, the ones who know. Because if you haven't had coach speak to you like that, you don't really know. Right? And then we watched all of the movies where you see coach come in at halftime and kind of give the rah-rah speech and everybody's all pumped up. And usually when they come out in the second half, it's a great time in the script. But sometimes in the movie, all of that is scripted. It's all worked out. But in real life, it doesn't always work out that way. It doesn't always work out that way. I heard a lot of great stuff in the What Up Dogs. I'm really excited that a lot of you are not only being admitted, you're getting scholarships, and you're moving in the right direction. But in this second half of the game, we need a lot more of you to be moving in that direction. And so this may not be for everybody in the room, so please do not get offended by some of the next stuff I'm going to say. But there are some of you who need a pep talk. Maybe you need the speech about, I'm still dealing with the fear. I don't know how to do this. Right? Because I'll be honest with you, it still seems to me like I was just 17 or 18 yesterday and everybody kept asking me, what are you going to major in? They're all excited, oh, you're going to be going to college. Where are you going? Right? Where are you going? Yeah. Where are you going? What you majoring in? And the reality was, I was 17. I had no idea where I was going because I already told you I had to talk to my parents. And when you start talking about majoring in something, I really wasn't sure what I was going to major in. I had an idea. But I was like, you want me to look 4 years into the future? I have no idea what might happen. What happens if I change my mind? Right? Is that anybody in here having those thoughts? I just want to make sure that 17 is still 17. Right? And you get tired of people asking you that, don't you? And here's the really cool thing. We all develop a really cool mask. We develop a persona, a character, right? Who feels like they have the best one? They ask you that question, what do you say? Okay. And then they go, what? Who you gonna fly for? What are they? Oh, they don't hear pilot, so they just leave it alone after that? Kind of like being an astronaut? I got you. Who else? Anybody else? Exactly, but then they usually leave you alone and the questions stop, right? They die right there. That's my point. That's my whole point. We developed that. You've developed that. You guys have gotten good at it. And if you say the wrong thing, they get a little too excited and keep asking more questions. And that's when you go, ooh, that was not the right one. Right? I was like, I got to choose something else. Right? And you start looking for that thing. And here's the crazy thing. You will convince yourself you wear the mask so long. You show up on campus in the fall and they're going to ask you again when you get there. And you're going to say, accounting. And he's going to be at orientation. He's going to say accounting. He's not going to say undecided when he gets to the college. Because he's been repeating it so often that when he gets asked, it's just going to fall out of his mouth. And the next thing you know, he's going to be taking business classes, intro to accounting and all of that. And he'll be sitting in the class going, how did I get here? Right? Because all of a sudden the mask is not needed for those classes. They're looking for individuals who really know. And early on, I told you guys that you really are the legendary group. And I talked to a few of you before the break. And I said, feeling legendary? Nope. Fake it till I make it. You know I heard that at least 6 times? For real. There is nothing hard about being legendary except owning it. And part of what? Opportunity. When you mix talent with opportunity, that's when successful things start happening. That's when doors start opening. That's when you have an opportunity to go to that next level. Right now, there is no scarcity of talent in the room, but there will be a scarcity of opportunity come June, when many of you have let the window of opportunity close. There is no scarcity of opportunity in the mentors that are in this room that are willing to help you, and your coaches. I can't speak to all of your schools and your counselors, but at least I can speak to Midnight Golf. There's no reason for you not to really keep moving in this direction. Like getting really ready. What does really ready mean? Anybody want to take a guess? What does really ready mean? Getting really ready. Being legendary. Moving the needle. How many of you completed at least 25 scholarship applications over the break? When I say complete, I mean you filled it out completely, submitted everything to the foundation or agency, whether it was putting it in the mail, emailing it, at least 25. One person? Piece I can't understand. Because I'm old now. And so I know that there's a communication gap between us, but we've got to understand each other if we're going to close it. Does that make sense? All right, so I still don't know why you don't fill out scholarship applications. Because I know that that's the only way to get the money. And I know from talking to you, you don't want to do it if you don't know you're not going to get the money. Is that accurate? Okay. Now, as an old man, I'm just telling you, that makes no sense to me. No sense. You know you have to fill out the application in order to get the money, but you only want to fill out the application if you're sure you're going to get the money. The application is the only thing that stands between you and the opportunity. You have the talent to complete the application, but you won't do it. Because you're afraid they're going to tell you you're not talented enough. Where does that fear come from? Where is that fear coming from that says that you're not enough? Where is it coming from? This is personal. It is true that integrity alone won't make you a leader, but other people. Small things matter a lot. When you all see the Midnight Golf alum who come in here and they stand up here, they learn it. There are times we will ask you, are you coming to an event? And you will say yes, and then you don't show up. It's damaging your integrity. And if you don't learn that now, you will learn that the hard way later. I wish I was making this conversation up. I was having it the other day, 2 days ago, with a colleague, and he said that they had actually agreed to do a Skype interview, and then they just never showed for a job that they had applied to. And they just didn't show, didn't say anything. Most of the industries that you want to work in are small. Everybody knows everybody. Everybody will know somebody else's name who knows your name. I just got back from Florida. At this conference, there were probably 400 people. In that room, more of those people knew my name than I knew theirs. And the scarier part, at least a third of them knew the names of my peers and colleagues at East Lansing. How important do you think it was for me to act a certain way, show up, be sitting in the front, be doing all of the things that we asked you guys to do? But more importantly, my integrity is on the line. Every time you show up, when you come out onto the court in the second half, your integrity is on the line. Are you ready? Are you really ready to play? Are you ready to get into this? Because if you're not really ready, then I understand. But we have to get past some things. And we have to be willing to converse and talk through them. Because I can't read your mind, and even though you try to explain it to me, I know that I'm still listening. Because I really want to understand. Or maybe I have to try to communicate to you in a different way. And that's what I'm going to attempt to do today, is to communicate to you in a different way. Your integrity is on the line. So if you have to do the application for the scholarship and you go, but I got it done, right? Just know that your integrity is on the line. And that's the sign of a true leader. That's the sign of a legendary leader in terms of what happens. What is the truth about your story? What is the truth about your story? When we were doing public speaking, I told you all have a story. You have your own narrative, right? Here's the thing, the rest of the world is really looking for leaders, and they're looking in this room and they see leaders. And they're surprised about the leaders that come out of this room because they better understand your leadership ability based on the context of the situations that collectively you share. But sometimes your story, you won't tell it all. And we all have stories like that. You have stories that you're afraid of. You have personal stories that you won't share. That feeling less than. That not really sure about how I'm going to make it. It's cool to do a what up though and have everybody clap for you, but you're still unsure. And you're still afraid of what comes next. And I just want you to know it's okay to be afraid. But it's not okay to be afraid and not do anything. It's not. 8th grade year, I was graduating from middle school, and they decided to take us to Cedar Point. Great trip. Couldn't wait to go. That was the furthest they would take you anyway, right? From Detroit on a bus with about 40 of your friends. Because they figured it was the least amount of trouble we could get you could get into. And so, we get to Cedar Point. Now, I'm not a roller coaster guy. I learned that early on in my career of riding roller coasters. After somebody threw up on me, I knew roller coasters was not going to be my thing. So I quickly became a games guy. And it was important for me to win. Bless God, it's 8th grade year. I'm doing my thing, playing games, and you know what? I win. I win this big old Snoopy. And I'm proud of Snoopy. And we're walking around the park, me and my boys just trying to chill it. And the cutest girl in the 8th grade graduating class asked if I would ride the roller coaster with her. Who we? So here's the dilemma. I was ready to ride the roller coaster, right? Because I was no longer not interested. I was getting ready to commit to ride this roller coaster. Because I didn't get invitations like that often. But I was okay with that. But the challenge was Snoopy couldn't ride. Exactly. So as soon as I asked one of my boys to hold Snoopy, they was like, dog, I'm not holding your stuff. So, exactly, right? Let's put it this way, he still ain't my bastard daddy. But he went on the ride instead. I can take that another way, but I'm not, because I want to stay on point. Because I felt like she had as much to do with that as he did. But the reality is, let's say, because she agreed to ride with him when she asked me. That's all. Yeah, Shay, thank you. So, kind of sort of. But, so, what I'm trying to tell you is, I learned a lot from that particular story. I learned a lot. I learned a lot about myself. I learned that at times you don't always have to do what you would normally do. Sometimes you can wait a little longer because you never know how your story might unfold. Sometimes we have to approach opportunities more arms open than arms closed. Cherish, but also some of the things that you're trying to keep other people from seeing. Because it's not always a Snoopy. Sometimes whatever your story is, it is. But I would need you to own your story. You didn't get to senior year because you were so smart. You got to senior year because you were so blessed. People don't know what's going to happen to them in the next moment. And sometimes we sit around feeling bad for ourselves and, oh, well, this happened and this happened. And I understand that that's a part of your story, but it's not the end of your story. And for most of your life, a lot of people have been narrating and writing your story. But it's time for you to take over the pen. It's time for you to start writing your story. It's time for you to start putting things in place. If you want it to happen, you have to make it happen. It will not happen any other way. But you've got to be committed to it. You can no longer just be interested in it. Right? And so you may say, what did I learn? I definitely learned, play games on the way out the game. Right? Because I can people watch, but you never know when the opportunity is going to come. So don't always rush to just do certain things. And right now, a lot of you are hearing different things from different people. Don't just rush to every piece of advice you get. Right? How many of you have done that? And as a result, every time you hear a new good piece of advice, what do? You run to it too. You don't turn it down. Right? Well, I was thinking about that, right? But my man or my girl said she got me and they're going to get me a full ride. They're going to make a phone call. Everything is not about the bragging of the money. You're talking about your life and your journey and your story. What story do you want it to tell? What parts of your life do you want to impact? Those are the things that are important. That's part of this whole piece. So there's a video I want to show you. Because I want you to see and hear what the world thinks about millennials. This guy's name is Simon Sinek. He did an interview about millennials that went viral. But one of the most important pieces is he actually describes in pretty good detail some of the thought patterns. And the reality is, guess what? It's not your fault. You didn't do anything wrong. You know who he actually blames?
Our parents.
Your parents. He blames your parents.